Good afternoon and welcome to the People's Verdict. I'm Patrick Soko, and today we are discussing the increase in electricity tariffs as well as current affairs. And my guest on the program is coming from the Green Party. He is the president of that particular political party. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Soko, for having me today on your program. I sincerely appreciate that you managed to corner me and bring me on this program today.
Interesting. We are happy that you managed to honor our invitation despite it being on a short notice.
I'm always available. Thank you.
Interesting. The Green Party is not a new political party in the Zambian political landscape. First of all, to just kickstart our conversation, Mr. SINKAMBA, I wanted to get the perspective of the Green Party. Is a Green Party still a political party that Zambians should look out for in the political fraternity?
Mr. Soko, thank you very much for that question. I think if you look at all political parties in the country today, there is only one political party which has an economic agenda, a social agenda, and a political agenda which is unique. The Green Party is the only party in this country which has proposed an economic program for the country in the agricultural sector, which is unique. No political party has ever come out from the opposition to advocate for a particular program on their manifesto and have it implemented through enactment of laws in parliament, always in opposition, and promising the people of Zambia some relief which is sustainable. I'm talking about the cannabis and industrial hemp program. When we started talking about cannabis and industrial hemp way back 10 years ago, people thought we were jokers. People thought we were mad. People thought we did not have something to offer on the table. But ask them again today, if there's any political party which has a program people are anticipating to have implemented, it's a Green Party. You go to any village today, you ask them, what do you want to be implemented? They'll tell you, we want cannabis program to be implemented. We want industrial hemp to be implemented as a program for the nation. They are looking forward. The chiefs, the whole country, we have almost 228 chiefs. All of them have pushed this agenda. They want to have cannabis farms, industrial farms in their chiefdoms. So we are the only political party. The Zambian people are expecting to have their program implemented. Businessmen, a lot of businessmen today, they have saved their money. They have bought farms waiting for the time when the cannabis and industrial hemp program is going to be implemented. Workers, those that are in industry, those, even the loafers, they're looking for a day when they will have this program implemented. Engineers who have graduated from various universities, they are anticipating. So we have provided some glimmer of hope to the Zambian people, the only political party. Everyone else is talking about the same things, recycled programs. They tell you, no, if you vote for us, we are going to do CDF. If you vote for us, we are going to do same things. You understand?
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing unique but the Green Party. So going forward, you will see what will happen in the future elections.
Now,
the Green Party will be the main thing to
now that you mentioned this important program, Mr. SINKAMBA, I want to find out, is there a direct relationship, rather, between this program and what people mistake for? It may, the legalization of marijuana, like for consumption, like people are taking advantage of the situation, and us as a country now failing to control the marijuana, or rather, in terms of people smoking it. Is there a direct relationship with what the program you are proposing, or that is something else altogether?
Well, initially when we started talking about it 10 years ago, people thought it was going to be abused, that it was going to create huge problems for the people, that it was going to spoil the youths and things like that. But we've tried to explain, and people on their own, they have done research. You'll be surprised, Mr. Soko, that even students in secondary schools have had to do my research on the internet. These days, everyone who has a smartphone can. So they have even gone into debate to discuss the same, and that has helped them to understand even more about this program. We have come to realize, as the Zambian people, that abuse is definitely out. Because if you look at abuse as an issue, alcohol as the worst abuse arrangement, and it's the biggest killer in this country. If you go to the police stations to find out how many people are in police cells on account of alcohol, they were so drunk, they went into fighting, they've killed someone, they've assaulted someone, they've raped someone, they've defiled the child. Ask what has been the cause. It is alcohol. Accidents. If you go to the police station, find drunk and driving and accident, you find literally 90% of those accidents are influenced by, you know what I mean. So if there's any big problem today, it's alcohol. Go to hospitals, find out how many people are reporting on account of assault. How many people have been killed in a drinking arrangement? It is alcohol. If you go to the hospital, find out the health of the people who go and complain that they are sick. Either they have got heart problems, they've got diabetes, they've got all sorts of diseases related to beer. You find that the emerging diseases today of diabetes, cardiac arrangements, cancers, they are caused by alcohol. It's the biggest problem, but it is at the same time the biggest economic earner for the country. So governments have not banned alcohol. Why? Because if you just look at the income coming from alcohol, it's so much. You understand? Yes. Now ask yourselves, because if you go to the research again, you'll find that Zambia is one of the countries in the world with the highest cannabis consumption rate. In fact, we are among the top 10. In Zambia, if you go to the World Health Organization reports on the drug abuse and drug use, you find that Zambia ranks among the top 10 countries smoking cannabis, where it is estimated by the World Health Organization that 15% of the population smoke cannabis. 15%. But ask yourself, how many of those people who smoke cannabis go to the hospital that they are sick? It's a very, very insignificant number of people. In fact, not even anything to write home about. You understand? People think that smoking cannabis is responsible for mental health.
Why do you say so?
If 15% of the population smokes cannabis, and if indeed cannabis causes mental problems, then 15% of the population of Asoko would have been a machine. You understand? 15% of the population would be a machine. So meaning that out of every 100 people that you meet, if you're walking, 15 of them is mashiru. Understand? That's what 15% means. But is that the case? So
in other ways, you're also suggesting that cannabis has no health effects.
Not anything to write home about. You understand?
In terms of mental health as well.
Not anything to write home about. Usually, if someone is affected by cannabis because of their smoking, it is what we call inherited from their family. It's a genetic thing. You understand? There are people, so-called, if you give him just a cup of beer, then you see, you'll be shocked. But I mean, if you just one cup of beer, the way you perform, you'll be shocked. Then there are others, even if he drinks a drum of katata, even if you give him 10 crates, I got that, you know, Machamba and Koku no water, Mara Pushoku no 0405 is looking the same. You understand? Then a genetics, you never get drunk from the other people like that. You understand? So usually those that you see who react very, very badly when they smoke cannabis, it's not cannabis. It is their problem here. And this is confirmed even if you go to Chainama Hospital there. Ask how many people are in Chainama there because of cannabis. You find that's a very small number. The majority of people there is alcohol related. Alcoholics, you understand?
Exactly.
You understand? They're alcohol addicts. That's a majority. Then the big number also are social problems, either divorces, divorce, and this girl ends up into a situation where anger and depression, those are people that are treating there. Sometimes if, there are challenges within their families, social challenges, you find them there. Sometimes the student at a particular university, and with these bursary issues, someone has a problem, they want to kill themselves. They are taken there for counseling. And we have several, in fact now, there are several centers that have opened up. Here in Lusaka, I understand there are probably 2 or 3 where they assist children who have been affected by abuse of drugs. Ask them how many of them are there because of Ichamba. Very few. The majority is alcohol and the other hard drugs like cocaine and other drugs like that. Ichamba is not many. You understand? And even when you're talking about abuse, Ichamba, you cannot start smoking and we're doing chain smoking like cigarettes. You understand? You just do a small arrangement. You are done. And you not want to get back to it. You understand? So you can't be an addict with the Ichamba because once you do one arrangement, then you're done.
Do you smoke?
Well, I don't smoke. I don't smoke, but you see, when we were kids, and I'm very honest with you, when we were kids,
experiments. It
was I mean, if you haven't smoked cannabis, then you haven't been. So if you're in boarding school, understand, those of us went to boarding. So everyone in boarding school, boys, it was mandatory that you need to. University, those days, where the people we called were monk, you know, Nama Bungwes, you know, those are the guys who used to smoke. And most of them were very intelligent, you know. They were doing these hard courses, you know, the engineering, natural resources, I mean natural sciences, those hard courses, the guys, if you go those days, we could go ruins, and ruins was for Bungwe, Monku, you know, you go there, it was the end thing, smoking. Understand? And they called it deck during our time, but deck only came in 1982, somewhere there. You understand? So, Ichamba, if you were smoking, you understand? It was not a big thing. But now, and also the Americans, when they came in with their programs to try and deceive governments around the world and to stop people from using cannabis for medicinal and other industrial purposes, they started defunding institutions like DEC. Not because people had a big challenge really on cannabis, but to try and stop people from progressing. Progressing in terms of medicinal aspects, progressing in terms of using cannabis, especially industrial hemp, for industrial purposes. And we've been kept in that corner, okay, where they are using themselves. are using cannabis to manufacture drugs, which they are selling to us at very expensive rates. And those are the drugs that we are using in all our hospitals for treatment of various painkillers and stuff like that, cancer diseases, those cancer drugs. They manufacture, export to you at very expensive rates, and then make you impoverished in that manner, instead of us manufacturing this. So really it's been some scheme by Bazungus to deceive and exploit us, so that we are their market all the time.
Before we leave this subject, Mr. Sinkamba, there's also, we know that this government, especially the previous administration, did make a lot of progress in terms of putting up legislation towards the cultivation of marijuana. Now, let's look at the current, what are the current pitfalls you have observed are hindering this process? Because we understand that government, through the Zambia National Service, is equally supposed to undertake the same process. But what have you observed as some of the challenges hindering this process?
Well, we are in the same league like the previous. You know, the PF government took a long time to finally accept that cannabis could be used for medicinal and industrial purposes. We started the campaign in 2013. They only acknowledged that yes, we can go cannabis in 2019. Okay? That's when the cabinet was able to give a direction on that. Okay? And he indicated that they were going to introduce bills in parliament to deal with the cannabis. You understand? From 2019, it was a story we were pushing. The only time the bills were finally, the three bills were presented to parliament was in 2021. And even then, you know, the legislative session of parliament is usually from January to March. You understand? But in this particular case, even when in January several bills were presented, I think almost 7 bills were presented, cannabis and industrial hemp and the narcotic and psychotropic substances bills were only presented towards the end. There were bills number 33, bills number 34, and bill number 35 of the 37. Understand? And these three, the cannabis bill, the industrial hemp bill, and the narcotic and psychotropic substances bill, were passed the last day when parliament was dissolving. The last day, like midnight, no more parliament, no more minister. That's when they were passing those bills. You understand? And at that point, the only person who remained was the president. And the president remained because I think parliament was dissolved about the 13th of May, 2021. 19th of May, the president signed off those bills, assenting them, okay, to pass them into law. But then they still had some clauses for which were locking. You understand? The whole implementation.
Yes. Where
Where they required that a minister must sign commencement orders. You understand? Now here is a situation: you pass the bills in May on the 13th as Parliament. Then President assents them. Then there is no minister to sign the commencement order. Then we had to wait now for the elections to be held, new ministers to be appointed, so that they can sign those commencement orders, and then certain processes would commence. What happens? PF loses the elections, and there is no minister from PF, and then the new government comes in, and now they have appointed their own ministers, who say, first of all, we want to understand what this program is all about. And from 2021 to date, the issue is commencement orders have not been signed. Okay, and meaning that the Cannabis Act can't take effect, the Industrial Hemp Act can't take effect, but the other one took effect, the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act took effect upon assent. Why? Because it was repealing and replacing another one. Because if it was only repealed and then there's no replacement, then there would have been no deck.
Exactly.
Do you understand? Then there would have been no enforcement of those laws. And it was good that they did not put a commencement order in the other one. because the bill would have been replaced. I mean, the act would have been replaced, the old act, and then there's no replacement, and then so there would have been a little bit of chaos in the manner in which. But however, we are still hopeful that this is going to be one day actualized. When, for example, last year, National Service announced, no, we are going to grow cannabis. We are going to grow cannabis in Kabompo. We are going to grow cannabis in Wengwa. We are going to grow cannabis in Mwense. We told them, what are you talking about? You can't do that because there are no commencement orders signed. So what are you going to grow? How are you going to grow? Who is going to authorize that? You understand? Yes. And besides, before you even start talking about you as National Service to grow, there are certain steps which need to be undertaken. Number one, there must be what we call the seed regulations. You understand? Yes. Because under this, in our country, no seed can be grown for commercial purposes unless that seed is certified by the Seed Certification Institute in Chilanga. You understand? So if Zambia National Service wants to grow and there are no seed regulations which have been approved, how are they going to get the seed? From where? You understand? And who's going to, under which premise? Exactly. You understand? So we told them, you can't grow. Where? How? There are no seeds in this country and you cannot get a seed. Number two, there must be like a board, okay, which is going to coordinate. The way you have Zamra, you have ERB, Cotton Board. Yes, Cotton Board. So there must be a cannabis coordinating committee, okay, which must be appointed, and it to serve as a board to give guidance. It's not there. So how are you going to? No, we are going to grow in Kabompo. We are going to grow in Bwengwa. So who told you that you can do that? Because before any farm is cultivated for cannabis or hemp, there must be a statutory instrument to designate cultivation areas. You're going to grow in this area, there will be a cultivation of cannabis. In this area, there will be cultivation of hemp. In this area, there will be cultivation of this. A statutory instrument is issued. Where did you get a statutory instrument which is talking about Kabompo? Where did you get that? So stop talking about you are going to grow this. You're going, in fact, you're even making mistakes. So, we're going to grow cannabis. We want to do what they're calling it center pivot. We have secured 140,000 hectares where we are going to do center pivot. Already you are embarrassing us. Medicinal cannabis, you don't grow it like that. Medicinal cannabis, you grow it in what we call greenhouses. You understand? Under controlled conditions and whatever. You want to grow cannabis for medicinal center pivot. Already people are laughing at us abroad. What do these people know what they're talking about? Say, if you don't know, better you ask the professionals. Those people come to us as a Green Party to assist you, to tell you what requires to be done to start cultivation and what and how it will be done. So that even when you are speaking to the people of Zambia, you are speaking from what is there as obtaining in the law. So now, people, you've heard Mr. Soko asking me about Zambia National Service. And so a lot of people think that Zambia National Service maybe is even growing now. You understand? Exactly. You understand? Why? Because those announcements, the way they were pronounced, you understand? It's as if they are going to start the following day. Exactly. Only to come and find that they can't do anything because there's nothing to be done until certain steps are effected. So where we are is that we're still waiting for the necessary steps to be undertaken. More complicated. One minister was asking me a couple of months or so, say, SINKAMBA, if we were to start now, if those commencement orders are signed now, what time frame do you think we can start cultivating cannabis and industrial hemp at national scale? I said, Bakalamba, what will happen is that, number one, we need to have trials, meaning that the Seed Certification Institute must have various varieties of seeds that they must try in various areas, microclimates, where they will grow so that they understand which one grows better where. You understand? Exactly. The way you hear that is M752 can be grown in certain areas, M6 Shani, you know those, if they're telling you about some seed, you understand?
Yes, yes.
What they did before they came up with those codes for those varieties is that they cultivated certain seeds and they found that those seeds would grow maybe in high rainfall areas, in low rainfall areas, in certain areas which are like drought a little bit. So they have various varieties which they have come up with, so that when they are delivering northern province, they know in northern province is high rainfall area, this variety will grow. Otherwise, Mwalima, to talk about in 2 months, they are ready. In northern province where rains has to be 4 months, it means you destroy your crop. You can't harvest. You understand? Because maize is ready by June. I'm sorry, by December. How do you harvest? It will be disaster. So those are some of the complications. So we need to get all these steps done. And as a Green Party, we offered ourselves, like we offered to PF, to say we can assist even our colleagues to do the right thing.
Interesting. Our dear viewers, in case you are just joining us, you are watching the People's Verdict, and our guest is the Green Party President, Mr. Peter Sinkamba, and we are discussing various issues pertaining to current affairs, and we're looking at a topic that is dear to him just a while ago, the issue of the cultivation of hemp. Quite, he's so elaborate on that sector, but we'll try to divert him a little bit, especially to other topical issues, being leaders who speak on national matters. There's a topical issue pertaining to the issue of electricity. Most Zambians feel it is not justifiable for the government to continue to increase the electricity, and that even the current tariffs, most of the people have difficulties to cope with. But we saw ERB last week approving the electricity tariff. So we'll take a short break with that story pertaining to the Energy Regulation Board, where they were announcing the approval of electricity tariffs. Then we'll be back on the other side to get your perspective, Mr. Sinkamba, on this very subject.
Not prudent and must be renegotiated forthwith. In arriving at its decision, the ERB has carefully considered ZESCO's financial position, consumer submissions, and government policy in order to strike a balance on the utility's viability, affordability, and government aspirations. Special attention has been paid to the low-income households, small commercial operations, social services, and water utilities. Specifically, the board has provided for 4 categories of energy consumption in each customer class. There is R1 to R4 for residential customers, C1 to C4 for commercial customers, and S1 to S4 for social customers. The first category is for the vulnerable in our society, and these will consume 100 units or less per month. For this category, the new approved tariffs are actually lower than current tariffs and will provide relief to this segment of society. The second category covers customers who consume up to 300 units monthly. The third category is for customers who consume up to 500 units monthly. The last category is for customers who consume more than 500 units monthly. These are considered to be significant consumers and have the capacity to pay for the power consumed at cost-reflective levels. The Energy Regulation Board is confident that this 4-tier structure offers electricity consumers the option to consume power at a level that they are able to afford, whilst also allowing ZESCO the capacity to operate in a financially viable manner.
Well, there you have it. That was the Energy Regulation Board there when they were justifying why they had to allow ZESCO to go ahead with the revision of electricity tariffs. However, various stakeholders have also opposed the tariffs, and they feel that the ERB did not take into consideration their proposals. And if it is for ordinary Zambian citizens, they had rejected the tariffs altogether. But however, they had gone ahead and just increased, and which other players suspect that it is among the conditions the International Monetary Fund, IMF, has placed on Zambia as among interventions it has to undertake. However, I want to now get the perspective of the Green Party regarding this subject of electricity. Are we going to continuously increase electricity, justifying that ZESCO is not making enough money? Because I remember even previous government did make attempts to increase. They did increase several times, making the same justification. But is that the real reason, or what do we need to make sure that this electricity is accessible to citizens?
Okay, first of all, we sympathize with the government because it's like their hands are tied. On one hand, they have made commitments to the IMF to introduce cost-reflective tariffs. I think this has been an agenda of the IMF for a long time. And also, even within the SADC region, at SADC level, there was I think there's a SADC agreement that it was supposed to have been, I think, by 2022 or so. All countries within SADC should have drifted to cost-reflective tariffs. Here, I think there were some studies which were done a couple of times, and they have not been conclusive. So we have a situation where IMF is pushing, and one of the conditions for the framework which was agreed upon was to curtail the tariffs, I mean the subsidies in energy. And then also we have pressure from within the SADC arrangement to try and introduce her. So the people are exposed at the end of the day. You've heard what the chairman was saying there, those categories, the vulnerable ones, those who consume 100 kilowatts, is it per
That's
month?
if there is.
Yeah, that is it. Because I'll tell you, speaking for myself, when we buy for almost like 500 kwacha, the first, according to the odd, I mean the what will be odd by first May, the existing now. When we buy 500 kwacha, we get 400 and probably 3 units, okay? Up to 410, somewhere there, units. Now, that 410 in our household runs out in 10 days. So once that runs out, any additional, you start now getting at 232 400. Understand? That runs out in 3 days. Okay? And so you can imagine how much you pay at the moment based on this rate. Now, what has happened is that they have increased for those of us who consume, I think we are in R4, okay? That R4 category, I live in Parklands, you find that probably our bill in a month will be 3,000, which is a civil servant salary. You understand? So now, even those ones that are talking about 100, these are probably people who just use lights. They don't have stoves to use in the homes. They don't have geysers to use in the homes. They're just using those lights. Okay, probably those are the people that you're going to, who are going to use that kind of category. Otherwise, even if they say we have reduced for these people by 7 kwacha, that is nothing. You understand? The main people that really contribute huge income to ZESCO are those of us who live in R4 category. Okay? Those are the ones that contribute big time and subsidize even those ones who are talking about. So ZESCO has not even actually done any service to those people. What they've done is that they've passed on that cost to us, those who live in R4. Okay? They are the ones who are taking over that responsibility. Otherwise, it's not a service. You are just transferring, overburdening those who are in higher categories. Okay? But anyway, now coming to what should be done. Okay? What should be done for us? We think that we need to scale up production of energy in a big way. Solar, of course, is one of the routes, and I'm happy that there are a few investors here and there that have come on board to try and increase, and I'm happy for CEC, for example. They've done a good job to put up that solar plant, which has brought on board almost 34 megawatts, and they're saying they will increase to 70. That's very good. Others have indicated they're going to put up 2 billion worth of solar capacity. We don't know how much, but we need to scale up, because at the moment our total capacity is about 3,600 megawatts. We need to scale up this one, and that's why the Green Party manifesto of 2016 was very good on energy. What we had proposed, and what we had informed the Zambian people, was that we are going to scale up energy. We're looking at probably by 2030 increasing it to about 30,000 megawatts, because there's a huge deficit in the sub-region. Okay, there's a huge, in fact, in 2016, there were, I think, 80,000 megawatts deficit in southern region. So that is a business opportunity. And for Zambia, we had a lot of potential to do that. Hydropower potential alone, what could come on board was about 6,000 megawatts from hydro alone. From solar, it is a huge capacity. Probably we could even manage somewhere in the range of 100 gig from solar alone. You know, so, and then geothermal, we have that capacity. We lie in the fault where we can draw. You know, we are not utilizing that. We had said we have a lot of wind, especially Lake Tanganyika. We've got some wind called Kapata, which could do capitalize on and generate a lot of energy using waves. We have, for example, in Chilabombe, there we draw a lot of water from underground. We could put up some power station to generate power. You know, water which comes out of Konkola mine alone is about 400 to 500,000 cubic meters per day. That's a lot of water, which just goes to waste. In fact, if that mine was to close, probably the Kafue could dry up at some point, because it provides more water to make us turn the turbines in Kafue Gorge. You understand? That mine is contributing towards that. But along the way, we could cascade the production of energy. So what we had proposed as a Green Party, and that's why our manifesto was the best among all political parties that participated in 2016 elections. Civil society groups that sat to review all manifestos found that our manifesto was the best in terms of energy, in terms of agriculture, in terms of health, and so on and so forth. Because we had tangible plans which we could utilize to do a lot of these things, including generation of hydropower. And it's a pity that in this country people are elected not based on the manifesto, but based on the Chumuela of the year. If it is flowing in your direction that particular year, you find yourself in government. Unfortunately, it's not manifestos that count. But we hope in 2026, when people go back to the elections, they will look at the issues of manifesto. Who has the manifesto which is going to create massive
Are
employment.
you going to contest?
Well, I will definitely contest in 26 for the last time, like I said, because I told the people of Zambia that if you elect me into office, these are the plans. By now, you know, at the time we were going into this election, and the election of 2015, the debt, external debt was 7.5 billion. And when we said from our cannabis, we could dismantle that in 3 years, people thought we were joking. Okay? 2016, we came back. The debt had risen to about 13 or so billion.
Yes.
We told them, you guys, you'll be stuck at some point. IMF is going to come. Vote for us. They thought we were jokers. Today, the debt is at 18 billion, almost $19 billion external. And where is IMF? It is here. We told the people of Zambia in 2014, IMF will come in this country to come and control your economy. They thought we were jokers. Where are we? So we've been proven right. And we hope when we come in 2026 with a manifesto which is going to assist the youth, get employment. We had promised to employ 2 million youths if we are elected. How? Through the industrial hemp. We're talking about industrialization, create industries in each provinces for hemp production, okay, to produce textiles, to produce clothing, to produce pharmaceuticals, to produce cosmetics, to produce even petrol and diesel. You heard that government wants to convert the Indian oil refinery into a blending facility.
Into a oil marketing company.
Oil marketing, but also, yes, and to blend oils to produce, using ethanol to blend so that you can have a type of diesel you can use for industrial purposes. Cannabis, the hemp, has got the best oils for that. And so in our manifesto of 2016, when we were telling people that you can produce petrol and diesel from Ichamba to replace the importation of oil and fuel from abroad. They thought we were jokers. Today they are being told the same story. But we could have done it a long time ago. You understand, Wasoko?
Exactly.
Yeah, we could have done it a long time ago. But would have reduced by now seriously the employment arrangement, would have reduced significantly the ailments in hospitals, medicines. Would have, you know, we had promised to put up 7 pharmaceutical plants to produce various drugs across the country so that we become self-reliant on drugs. Today you go to hospitals, the story is that there are no drugs. And you have to wait for importation. You start accusing one another. Oh, no, this one is corrupt. No, this one has what? No, this. We could have been doing all those things ourselves by now if the Green Party had been elected at that time. Unfortunately, again, we cannot force people. You know, elections are about, governance is about people voting for you. If they don't vote for you, accept their verdict.
Now, under the new administration, they still call themselves the New Dawn administration, being the United Party for National Development, UPND. How would you rate their performance this far, 2 years down the line? Are they being a political party which they claim to be, or an administration which they claim to be in terms of ensuring that Zambians live better lives compared to the past, with a prominent promise being that of Zambians having 3 meals per day, based on your assessment and observations on the ground as a leader? What is your take on that?
Well, our view is that they have very good intentions to have people to have 3 meals. And if someone promises you 3 meals, that's a good person, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah. But the problem is to match, which is their handicap, is to match their promises with the deeds on the ground. Because for you to be able to facilitate access to 3 meals per day, the economy must be thriving. Okay? Disposable income for the people must be massive, so that they're able to buy the meals that they desire to have and should be able to eat those 3 meals. But if you look at the intentions, like we said, is good. Now, is the economy performing such that there is disposable income which is sustainable in the pockets of the people. At the moment, that kind of premise has not been sorted out, and this is the handicap that they have. For example, the major revenue earner for the country is mining, okay? Because mining, in terms of revenue that comes in, if you have to sell, I'll give you an example of copper. If you sell 800,000 metric tons of copper, that is $7.2 billion per year, okay? And if you can have that kind of income coming in, it will make a big difference, okay? But what has been the policy of the UPND on mining? They've been struggling to resolve the issues surrounding KCM up to now. I think they've made several promises to get it resolved. We've been waiting. We're given the deadline of first quarter of this year. The KCM issue is still lagging. We hope they'll resolve it soon, and we hope soon because the situation on the copper belt is very bad. Mopani, they had also promised that they would resolve those issues surrounding the capitalization of Mopani, or is it bring in a new investor? They have not done it up to now. We are still challenged with Chambishi Metals. We are still challenged with Chivuluma mines, Luansha mines. There are problems. We go to Kasenseli, there are still problems. The mine was shut some time back. Nothing is happening. You go to Rumfunsa here, the number of gold mines, or at least gold reserves that are mineable, we are not, up to this point in time, exploiting those mines sustainably. Lumezi, you heard those stories. There are emerging minerals, sugilite, Luapula, there's a hold there, there's a don't mine. So there's don't mine. Exactly. You understand? Yes. So mining is not contributing as much as it would have to make sure that people have 3 meals per day, those that live in mining areas. Look at agriculture, which is also another major contributor to our GDP. You know, it contributes big time in terms of providing employment. You know, if you're talking about the major employer in the country at the moment, is agriculture, because all these people in rural areas who self-employ themselves are into small-scale agriculture. Maybe they are able to grow 10 bags of maize, harvest 10 bags of maize, sell 5, they have a little bit of income. Others go to 20, others 50, others 100, others 200. We're talking about over 5 million people are employed. Those that are in formal employment is less than 1.2 million people. But agriculture absorbs about 5 to 6 million now. Although that employment is not usually accounted for in your accounting system when you're talking about how many people are employed, but agriculture provides that. Now, you give them Tuma Meda of fertilizer, you're killing them. You're killing a huge chunk of people who self-sustain. Understand? And that is where UPND has a challenge. We hope going forward they will be able to resolve the issues around fertilizer. Okay, the President has talked on these issues a number of times, and has indicated that he probably may have some fertilizer plants being established locally, so that instead of importing, we also produce locally. We hope that these measures are implemented as soon as possible, so that moving forward, we don't have a repeat of what transpired in the last 2 years in agriculture. The other sector which is very important for the country to have those 3 meals on the table, other than mining and agriculture, is energy. Okay, energy is, I think we talked about it. There's need to invest heavily, because you see, energy is important in the sense that people like these welders who self-employ, okay, those who do Baba Man, you know, they have to have energy for them to be able to
make money.
You understand? The moment you cut off the energy or you reduce access to that by increasing tariffs, by failing to provide power when it's supposed to be there, you're killing them. But those that are in formal employment at the moment, actually, they are also, other than the agriculture one, I'm talking about others now, generally, more than 1 million, 2 million, 3 million there. These are the people who depend on my barber shop or to my welding and things like that. Some mechanic who want to take weld, especially these guys who run my garages around. The moment there's no energy, you're messing them up because they can't get those gadgets welded or the spares welded and things like that. So it is a vicious circle. There's no energy. It means the disposable income for people to buy food on the table is affected. And unless and until we have measures that are sustainable in the energy sector.
Now that you mentioned this aspect, I understand that marketeers also are a large group of people. Let's say markets in the country. But however, these markets are also on prepaid meters. Here on Current TV, we're just covering some stories in Kanyama where these markets have been failing to run because the previous people who were serving the markets failed to pay for electricity. Now they are running on prepaid. Now they consume to about 4,000 a month and above. Now, how do you sustain small businesses like that if markets, for instance, are going to be on prepaid meters?
Yes.
Is that a sustainable business mechanism?
And that's why you see
those say they don't have money.
No, that's why when the chairman was talking about R3, R4, and C1, C2, C3, you know, the people that are going to be affected most are the same people you're talking about, marketeers, because those now are in the C category. You understand? Okay? So when you increase those bands, okay, already they were not managing. Now it means you are killing them. And you know, in these markets, you have people that depend on deep freezers, okay, to keep their merchandise, milk, fish, meat. So now when you increase and they have they cannot have adequate access, you are eliminating them from the business.
Yes.
You understand? You are eliminating them from the business. And markets actually contribute in a very big way to the economy. Those are the small scale people I was talking about. Okay? The 2 million plus. If you look at the money exchanging hands today at Sokoni market per day, it is huge money. You understand? Soweto market, the money exchanging hands on a single day, it is huge money. Okay? So when you cut off that business because the people cannot buy what they're supposed to buy because the suppliers can't supply since they have no electricity, you are actually affecting money supply in the country. It means people are going to keep more money in their pockets instead of spending. You know, the more you spend, when you talk about consumer indicators, when people are spending more money, that is good for the economy. But if people are not going to spend money because there is nothing to buy, then it means you are affecting your economy in a very negative manner. There must be a consumer traffic in terms of money supply and money exchanging hands. So these are some of the indirect effects that you're going to see arising from those tariffs. That business, small business entrepreneurship is going to be affected in a very big way. But government's hands are tied, like I said earlier, from the IMF arrangement, also from our own capacity. And I fear for next year. Okay, I fear for next year. Why? Because, you see, our major producer of power is Kariba. Kariba, you saw what happened when it could not, they could not produce. We went into load shedding of how many hours? Almost 20 hours.
20 hours.
You understand
that? Yeah, we were doing 15, 14.
Yes. So, but fortunately, rain started coming, and then we saw some relief plus what was imported. But now you have seen what we are being told. The indicator number 1 is Komboka. Komboka, they're telling you there will not be Komboka this year. Why? They're saying the water level is low. Okay, it's bad that we not have Komboka, but what it is indicating to you is that brace for huge power problems next year, because your Kariba Dam will not be filled to the usual optimum. Okay? And if it's not, it means that by September or so, the water will have been below the operating capacity. So we must brace for these same load shedding issues, unless we scale up using other available means. Because also for Kafue Gorge, lower and upper, and the Tej, we are likely to have reduced capacity. Why? Because we have not had adequate rains to be able to fill up the Kafue. I live in Kitwe, and we see the Kafue how it is. Like 2-3 years ago, we had even where water was flowing over the bridge. You understand? Usually, water is just, by now, it should have been just under the road of the bridge, just there under. But now it's down there, meaning that downstream here, we will not have as much water as expected. Okay? So we expect low production of power by September. So we brace for those things. Okay? So now what am I saying? What I'm saying is that we need to build capacity to be able to generate power, not dependent on the existing, okay, Kafue and the Kariba. Can we explore northwards, where there's a lot of potential in Wapula, see how we can maximize on the base load. You know, you need base load. Why am I saying base load?
Exactly.
You know, solar power is good. You can have plenty of it. But we don't have storage capacity for power to use in the night. You understand? We don't have that capacity yet. Okay? But in the night, if there is no generation of power, like using the hydropower, then you have a problem of the base load. Advantage with the hydropower, you can run it in the night, you can run it during the day, you can run it even if it is raining. Power from solar, the moment there's cloud cover, the production gets diminished. By the time it is dark, then you are almost at zero production. So if you have installed your power, it means you have no power generation from that, or transmission from that particular facility. You understand? So we need to build the base load capacity such that even if our solar plants that we are going to put across the country, they cannot produce on account that there is there's some cloud cover, or there is whatever rains and what have you, you are still able to run effectively using the hydropower and other power arrangements like geothermal, geohydro, and things like that. Okay? So that is our position as a Green Party. For government now, the hands will be tied until such a time that we can generate sufficient power. When you have plenty of power, you can even afford to subsidize. You understand?
Exactly.
You will start reducing even on the tariffs. You understand? But if you have a ZESCO, which is so indebted, you understand? ZESCO is surviving by grace of God. You understand? It's highly indebted. Okay? And it needs to pay. Some of the loans they got are commercial loans. You recall when they are saying Zambia owes 18 billion. Out of that, ZESCO's debt is about $1.4 billion, and they need to pay back that loan. Okay, now where do they get money to pay interest on those loans, to pay, to start reducing on the principals, if they cannot make sufficient from generation? So they start now, they're depending on small generation capacity to supply the local and also be able to pay from Congole. That is the dilemma they are in. And that's why for us as the Green Party, when we said we need to develop capacity, we're not saying we build capacity of ZESCO. No. Start up other companies that are going to be independent. They're not so deep into debt like ZESCO. Because ZESCO now is what we may call as a bottomless pit. Even if it is bailed out by government time and time again, it will still go back into its arrangement. Even those tariffs the chairman was announcing, I'm pitying them, because they're talking about, we see who pays ZESCO. You can't. ZESCO will only be able to be bailed out if there will be other institutions that are going to come up and produce more power, such that ZESCO is not the main arrangement. You understand? And if ZESCO is not the main arrangement, then ZESCO can do its own things. You understand?
So is it possible for us as a country to come up with another institution that can complement ZESCO?
Yes. I mean, the Green Party, when we said we're going to increase capacity up to about 30,000 by 2030, we had planned to establish various, in fact, first of all, we said we'll dismantle the ZESCO system so that we have the generation aspect to be on its own, and the transmission to be on its own, and the supply to be on its own. But we're also going to create a company like ZESCO for power. We call it the ZAM Solar. Okay. We're going to have created another company, the ZAM Geothermal, okay, which was going to go into the geothermal energy. We're going to have created another one to handle the nuclear power, okay, nuclear power station. We're going to have built some nuclear power stations here and there, because those ones are reliable, so in terms of production. But we just need the management issue, which from the Green Party agenda would have managed to do that without any problem. The environmental aspects of it, from the management of uranium waste, which is going to be generated from there. So we had, I think, 5 companies that we're going to have created, each one specializing its own power generating arrangement, pulling into the main grid, and also we're able to export through the southern power pool. So for us, we were very comfortable, and I hope our colleagues in UPND, when they're talking about increasing capacity of generation, they should be able to focus more on how they can increase on the base load aspect. We are trying, because us as the Green Party, we are not very stingy with our ideas. We are trying to discuss with our colleagues in the UPND to see how we can assist on the hydropower generation, okay, especially the northern circuit. Marshal resources on finance, build, operate and transfer basis, okay, so that you have this concession of 25 years, 30 years, and then at some point transfer that facility into the hands of government, and if it is during our time, because we are trying to apply our policies into okay, yes. If it's a hydro, it goes to some hydro company, okay, to manage them. Now as independent parastatals of government, which are going to run, Okay, so we'll try and see how we can assist them in that regard. Because really, the problem, if the country is suffering, it's all of us that are suffering. It doesn't matter you are in the ruling party, you are in opposition, you all suffer. If there is load shedding, all of you all suffer. Okay, of course, for me as president, I manage sometimes because I put up capacity at my house to be able to run, even if there's cost switches off the power from my home under those load shedding arrangements. But how many can afford that, you see? And even your conscience is not very clear that you can afford that, but the person next door cannot afford that. So you need to utilize our capacity, all of us, help them be able to generate sufficient energy. We need to reach 30,000 megawatts. The Green Party target of 30,000 megawatts by 2030. If we can try it and run with it, probably we can go even half of that, 15,000 megawatts. That would be good enough for us to be able to reduce the cost of power in the country and export, so that the difference of subsidizing, we can make it from the export, and we're able to make sure that our people can afford power, which is universal. We increase the capacity. I mean, because Zambia today, you know, people that are connected to electricity, it's only 22%.
100% in rural areas.
Yes. You understand? 22%. 80, almost 78% are not connected. We have countries like Tunisia, a number of countries, including Madagascar, and that have managed to reach the 100% connectivity of the people. Now, here in Zambia, we have massive potential to generate power to connect everyone to the grid. But because we're failing in our policy, in our manifestos, in our drive to achieve great things in terms of power generation, we are still lagging behind at only 22-23% connectivity. So I think we must be ashamed. 60 years after independence, everyone should have been connected to the grid, and they have power where they just switch on and off, and they're able to do things in their house. Now, why? What has been the impact of that on the environment? Coming again to the Green Party, you know, we believe in the green agenda, that the way we manage our forests, the way we manage our natural environment should be sustainable. Now, Zambia recording the threshold of one of the 10 countries in the world with the highest deforestation rate. So the more you increase the tariffs, the more you are increasing on the deforestation.
Yes.
So more people are going to rely on charcoal, on firewood, to be able to get power. So are we going to, is that sustainable? Look at the, you know, when you look at the numbers, how much we have harvested of our forests between 1990 and to date is massive. When you look at the satellite maps of Zambia in 1960, again compared to 1970, come to 1980, you do a 10-year kind of interval, and come and see Zambia in 2020, forest cover. You cry if you are an environmentalist. We are depleting these forests like no one's business, and we don't care. But some of the impacts are those impacts the chairman was talking about. We are going to increase C1 to C4. We are going to increase R1 to R4. We are going to increase S1 to S1. You know, you are speaking like that without understanding that actually you are doing a disservice to
the
your
environment.
Yes, in a big way, and with the population increasing, you know, 1990 the population was 7 million, it's now 20 million, and now if you're going to have almost 78% of 28 million people depending on charcoal and firewood. We are talking about almost 14 million people to 16 million people depending on firewood and charcoal. It's a huge impact on the environment. And how do we reverse? So even the effects, we're talking about climate change, no, less rain now in southern province, what? The
decisions are contributing.
That's what the chairman was talking about there. He's also contributing now to climate change in terms of negative impacts. Because as you cut the forests, then you are reducing only your rain patterns. You are cutting off rain as well. That is the other effect. So when there's less rain, what does it mean? It is the food security in the nation which is at stake. Because people are going to grow maize. If you go to Eastern Province, you'll cry. I went there for the Nkwala ceremony. I flew into Mfue, then drove into Chipata. And I was seeing these farms drying up. The people have cultivated maize, drying up. Why? Because of climate change, less rain. Starvation. You know, these people are starving now. You understand? What has caused that? The trees that you are cutting because of your energy demand. And therefore you are reducing on the rains. And reducing on the rains, what does it mean? You are affecting the food security. Water security also. Here in Lusaka, you depend on
Kafue.
No, Kafue is the smoke.
Underground as well.
Yeah. In fact, Kafue is supplying just very little of your water. The majority of the people are drinking borehole water.
Exactly.
Borehole water is also supposed to be supported by the forest cover. The more you have forest, the more you reduce on your evaporation. You understand? So the water table is lowering now. It's becoming hard for people to have water in Lusaka today unless you drill over, is it 75 meters? Some are now going on to almost 100. Now can you imagine what it will be in 50 years from now? And your Kafue, like I told you, me, I'm from Copper Belt. We see that the Kafue is doing very well, and we see how the Kafue is shallowing. So you people downstream, very soon, it will be difficult for you to have water. Because why? Especially northwestern now, where there is massive deforestation taking place because of mining, as they are opening up those open pits. And there's this migration of people from Lusaka, from Copperbelt to go and settle in northwestern where they've heard that the mines are doing very well. And the more you are going there, the more you are cutting your forest, and there's no electricity, the electricity challenge. So more forest, more charcoal, more firewood.
And we're seeing other companies using charcoal to actually burn manganese.
And yes, you understand? So you are doing a serious disservice. So when you look at those satellite pictures on how much you have affected your forest, you cry if you're an environmentalist. Of course, others says, no, there's regeneration. We are not matching regeneration and the rate at which you are cutting. So at the end of the day, the trouble is that we are going to face huge water challenges because our rivers will dry up, and the streams are already drying up. A lot of streams which feed into the Kafue are drying up. Why? Because, and you know, our also behavior of wanting Opaliponsefe ni plot. Even where it's a watershed, what you are seeing yourself is a plot. You know, the planners of yesteryear, before independence and shortly after independence, they knew that in Dambo areas you don't build anything. Where there's a river, there must be some distance. You leave some buffer zone to keep the rivers and streams running. Today, people are building on top of streams. You are drying them up. people are going to go and dig sand pits in areas where there were streams. For example, in Quito, we used to have Quito stream. It is shrinking by the day. It was a perennial stream. Now it has become a seasonal stream. So, in fact, now what is keeping it running is sewage, because there is discharge of sewage into that stream from various arrangements. So, and that is the trouble that we are doing by mismanaging our environment, including the forests. But I brought in this aspect of streams and how we are destroying them, just to give you an idea that you find one problem here is causing a cascade of other problems. And if you don't know that there is a remedy you can make.
Before we cannot end our conversation, Mr. Sinkamba, before us talking about the government's policy to export mealie meal. They pronounced that they are going to open up borders for exportation of mealie meal as well as maize. Now, we have seen that that pronouncement has also landed us in problems. Everyone else wants to go for the lucrative market in the DRC. Everyone else, even myself, would want to embark on a small business and export my mealie meal to the DRC. Now, what should be an ideal solution to this pronouncement, or should it have been backed by a policy to guide the entire process of value chain to ensure that there is sustainability in terms of sustaining the foreign market as well as the domestic market?
Mr. Soko, I will be able to share a few experiences. I'm one of those few individuals, youths then, who embarked on export of maize into Congo when government opened up or liberalized the market in 1993. Okay, under the World Bank structural adjustment policy, then government was asked to pull out of the marketing of maize. You understand? Marketing of maize, and created FRA, Food Reserve Agents, for strategic reserve. Okay? Food Reserve Agents was for strategic reserve, that is food security in the nation. So government's role would be to provide money, sufficient money, to buy maize for storage in certain facilities to enable the country's store, such that if there's a drought the following year, government is able to flood that maize to cover that drought season. Okay? But at the time these policies were being crafted, 20 years plus ago, we had a small population. Population, I think, of about 7 to 9 million people. Okay? So then it was envisaged that if you can have 500,000 metric tons of maize, which you're going to keep as a strategic reserve, as a policy of government, then in the event that there is a season which is bad, we are able to feed at least 2 seasons. If 2 seasons go in a row, we can't grow sufficient maize. Government, through the FRA, is able to support that. That was the policy. So there is what is called the food security and the nutrition policy of government. Now, you need to understand that before then, government was doing all the marketing through the cooperative unions which they were running across the country. The Copperbelt Cooperative Union, the Saka Cooperative Union, Eastern Province Cooperative Union, every province had. And the government then had put up infrastructure for food security. There were silos in Livingstone, main silos. The main food security silos. There were silos in Livingstone, in Monze, in Lusaka, in Kabwe, in Kitwe, and in Ndola. Huge silos, you see them here in Lusaka by National Milling there.
Exactly.
Those were built way back, okay, as food security. But in addition to those, there were sheds which were established across the country. So we built a capacity of 2 million metric tons of for maize, okay, or at least seed, but maize being the main one. Now, out of that, because of the liberalization policy of 1992-93, using these main silos, we stopped. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
We stopped. There used to be food capacity during Dr. Kaunda's days, okay, and the country was secure food-wise. Even if it was 3 years, 4 years, we could manage to survive. Now, we reduced that capacity because we couldn't service them. Today, they are back at all of them. None is functioning. We are depending on a few depots across the country and some of them satellite.
Mm-hmm.
But the total capacity is 1 million, which is still good enough if we can stock them to the capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what are we being told? We are told that we have sold the 500,000 metric tons. There's only 138. Is it 138 metric tons remaining?
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
Exactly.
And we are told that Food Reserve Agency is just going to buy how many tons? 250,000 metric tons. We are jokers. Then there is no food security in the country. Because should there be a drought, there is a problem. What should have happened is that after having made a blunder, our colleagues having made a blunder to export the little maize which was there, the 500,000, it went to your lucrative market where you, the youths, were making money.
Mm-hmm.
Government should have dedicated resources to buy at least 1 million tons,
Mm-hmm.
fill up the depots. Then the remaining 1 million tons, because I think we should be about 1.5, because we think that probably we may produce 2.5 million tons. Okay? The other 1.5 million tons, let the private sector buy. If they want to export, let them export. But be sure that you have strategic reserves up to 1 million, so that in the event that there is over export,
Mm-hmm.
you start releasing slowly. But when you're at 500, you know you are now parade. But our colleagues, I can't understand their food security policy, whether they are really following what is there on paper, but they need to do that, because we will subject our people to food insecurity in the long run, one day, you know. Because if you look at what is happening, because of the drought I was talking about, mm-hmm. our climate change, because of deforestation in Zimbabwe, deforestation in Zambia and our surrounding countries, we are having lesser rain. So Zimbabwe, which used to be the food basket, is having a challenge. Tanzania, which used to be a food basket, is having a challenge. Now you have to import. They want to import from Zambia. Kenya, which was a food basket, they want to import from Zambia. In fact, they came up with that plan where they wanted to start growing maize, and then there are those challenges. Maybe we can discuss at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, we are saying that government needs to be very serious on food security. This 250,000 metric tons they want to buy is nothing, especially after having exhausted the 500,000 which was available for food security. Let them release more money to buy at least 1 million. Or at the worst case scenario, 750,000 metric tons of maize to be stored for food security.
Your concluding remarks.
My concluding remarks. Well, thank you very much for having invited me. And for now, like when you said, can we gauge our colleagues in UPND? Maybe it's too early. We've just done 1 and almost 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But you need to understand that the third, and in fact the fourth and fifth year
mm-hmm.
is the election time.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to urge them to work extra hard. Let them capitalize on certain programs, especially the cannabis one. They should not waste more time. Mm-hmm. We already have laws in place. We are there as a Green Party to assist them to implement, because our people out there are expecting this program to start running as soon like yesterday. Let's not waste time. Let's not continue dragging our feet for nothing. Let them swallow the pride, and we assist them to get running so that people can have employment, sufficient employment. We have more money coming into the economy for to bail them out in terms of the loans that all other countries and generally put up the economy. On mining, I want to again emphasize, please don't continue wasting time. I know there are challenge for Mopani. Mopani, they are looking for an investor. No investor can come when Mopani is owing $1.5 billion. Okay? If that investor can come, that investor would want not to be part and parcel of that $1.5 billion. Means it would be a public debt. Let them just look for $300–400 million to pump into there. If they have a challenge on how to get that $300–400 million, let them come and approach some of us. We assist them to get that $300–400 million so that the mine is operationalized. So that in the long run, Mopani itself is able to generate money to pay off that loan. Let not our civil servants and the other workers be burdened with the responsibility. But otherwise, I think since I hardly come here, I think I need to be coming more so that I can explain in very simple terms to the people so that they understand these things.
This marks the beginning of our conversation.
Call me, I think I should be coming here to assist.
We'll be getting you from the copper belt into Lusaka.
Yes, absolutely. to assist, yeah. Because I know some of my colleagues are a little bit emotional how they speak about these things. We need to be calm, cool, collected, explain in very simple terms so people appreciate where the problems and how they can be resolved. Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you very much for being with us today. We appreciate your time, Mr. Sinkamba.
You're most welcome, Mr. Sokane. Thank you for having me.
Interesting. Well, we were discussing topical issues happening in the country. Topical among them is the issue of electricity tariffs, as well as issues pertaining to the mining sector, as well as the energy sector, talking about solutions with the Green Party. Until next week, when we come on the People's Verdict with another interesting topic of discussion. This has been Patrick Soko. Remember to always keep it on Camnet, because Camnet TV is not just another channel. Stay tuned.